Sex workers of Reddit, who was the grossest customer you've had? My brother once was the maintenance guy in a brothel in Switzerland. One morning a guy came in and asked if the used condoms from the night before were still available. He wanted to buy, open and eat them. Every time I think about that story it makes my mind crawl. It makes my mind crawl, also. I had a client who scraped the crotch of my panties with a knife, then put the scrapings in his pipe and smoked it. They weren't lying when they said it gets fucking weirder as we go down here. Just a regular panty puffer NBD. Exotic dancer here. I watched a girl get on stage with a bottle of Heineken and put it into her vagina, then do a handstand effectively drinking it. She then stood back up and the beer went back into the bottle and someone paid her to drink it. I've seen this done. I thought at the time that surely somewhere in the owner's manual it says putting yeast up there is a bad idea. Before I went independent I worked for a service. They sent me out on a call and when I got to the apartment I had to be buzzed in. I opened the door and it's large loft-style apartment and there are piles of trash everywhere. I'm standing in the doorway thinking oh shit, and I hear a voice from up in the loft telling me to come around and up the stairs. So I do, doing my best to avoid touching anything, and I climb the stairs and the entire loft area is a king-size bed, trash all around the bed and a massive obese man laying in the bed. Fortunately, it was incredibly quick. But I told the service I never wanted to go back. I pictured King Hippo from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! I did bottle service at a strip club for a while. This is a story from a bar back I was friends with. He was working at another club prior and was friends with a stripper who had some wealthy regular customer that would pay her to pee in a glass and he would drink it. She couldn't pee that night so asked the bar back to pee in the cup for her. He did and the customer sat and drank it. Do you think he could tell the difference? I'm certain he could, but he might have just chalked it up to a temporary change in diet or something. I was a sex worker/escort for 2 years. I was hired by a 73-ish-year-old professor, nice-sized public university. He hired me to go to his office and give him blowjobs. Yes, it was on campus grounds. Anyway, I'm giving him head and I smelled something foul. I wanted to stop and as soon as I was about to, I see a lump of shit lodged in between his ass cheeks. I didn't want to embarrass him but told him that I was ready to go. I never agreed to see him again. He must have been experiencing extreme pleasure. I was a phone sex worker. The amount of men who wanted me to be a cold dead girl was a bit disturbing. At that point why did they even call? They should have just picked up the phone and enjoyed the silence. It would have been so much better than me trying to come up with ways to be sexy, hot and dead. I'm decomposing in a ditch and I smell absolutely horrendous. This was on a date but I had this guy, my friends, and my therapist call him Poop Ryan. So you know where this is going. He and I got intimate one night and he begged me to pee on him. At this point, I was decently intoxicated and figured. It's his apartment and I never have to see him again. Why the fuck not? So I agree. Well. He laid down on his floor and I stood over him. He said, no. Up here. And pointed to his face. So, I was like, okay. I can pee on his face if he wants, and I move. Well. He opens his mouth and I step away and go, whoa no. I'm not doing that. He begged me to pee into his mouth so he could drink it. So, I figured. C'est la vie, right? I squat over him and start to pee into his mouth. And he's drinking away. At one point he tells me to stop. So I do and I'm holding it and he gets up and leaves. He comes back with a glass from the kitchen. He asked me to pee into the glass so he could enjoy it later. So I pissed in the glass and watched him drink my urine from a pint glass. It was at this point I was very sober and decided, well that's enough dating for this century, and got ready to go when he begged me to take a shit on his chest and then fuck him without him cleaning it off. So I got in my car, watched him run out after me, drove away, blocked his number, and never looked back. I have a friend who was a prodom in a dungeon in NYC for a few years, and she had a regular client who was an FBI agent. He was into mummification and would come in once a month to be bound in a body bag for 48 hours at a time. This is the most tame entry here. Dude just wanted a semi-permanent hug. Like a baby being swaddled. I wasn't a sex worker, but, as a taxi driver, I had many regulars amongst the sex trade. They all had the same character they point-blank refused to entertain. He didn't believe in washing, either himself or his clothes. Reckoned it weakened a person. I was lucky enough to only have met him in the open air, but my nose was still traumatized. He was really miffed because none of the ladies would entertain him, and then I refused to take him in the car. No amount of money would have been worth that. He's a walking UTI for those poor sex workers. Sheesh. My friend used to do this on the side cause extra cash, but she stopped when she had a guy pay her to peg him, and then as she was doing it, he shit himself and didn't want her to stop. He told her that it felt better with that kind of lube. She said she had to stop and gather herself and proceeded cause he was paying her $1,000 for the hour, but as she began again, that's when he began to jerk off and come all over the bed underneath him. She said that room smelled so bad afterwards. She said as she was washing up and getting ready to leave, he was just laying on his cum and shit-stained bed. Like she said, he's literally laying on his shit and cum and naked and pleased with himself. She says he wanted her to do it again as he was laying there, but this time he wanted to be on his back while they did it. She says I politely declined and told him I had to get to another appointment. What's with everyone shitting themselves? The extreme pleasure, I guess. A coworker's mother came in and paid another coworker to spank her. But the mom said she wanted to be able to hear it. I gave a lap dance to what I thought was a couple. They were brother and sister. Fucking Lannisters. They always pay their debts. Definitely the one that had head cheese after he washed. Second is the one, multiple sadly, with dingleberries. I've had them piss themselves, I've had them shit themselves. I've had them puke and whatnots. All just fine. Rancid, but I can deal with that. The ones with dingleberries were the most disgusting, usually high-placed jobs like CEO of a Fortune 500 etc. Not a clue when it comes to washing your butt, let alone be aware of the clumps of literal shit that hang there because they don't wash properly and they don't even care. The absolute worst was the head cheese expecting me to suck him off. After he supposedly washed properly. Nope, 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 nope. I gagged visibly and audibly. Lectured him about washing under the skin and kicked him out. I couldn't even look at it without gagging. I'm not a sex worker, but I did run a bar opposite one of Edinburgh's infamous saunas, sort of legal brothel the police turned a blind eye to. Anyway, the girls used to come into my bar once their shift was over for a well-earned drink, and so I got to know some of them pretty well. Inevitably conversation would turn to their clients' kinks. Two spring to mind. The high court judge who came in to be spanked and be told he needed to be punished. Not that exciting, but the one I can never forget was the peanut butter man. He would come in the day before with a massive bag of peanuts for his favorite girl and book an appointment the next day where the girl would shit on him and he would smear it all over himself saying, "I'm the peanut butter man," over and over. I could never get that image out of my mind. This is more just an interesting story, but my mom used to be a prostitute in the 1970s. She worked at a massage parlor where she says she was the queen of hand jobs. She just turned 70 this year. Anyway, she said one of her regular customers would bring hydrogen peroxide to their weekly appointment, and he would first pour hydrogen peroxide all over her private parts, then pour hydrogen peroxide in his mouth, swish, spit it out. Then, he'd go down on her for an hour. When they were finished, he'd swish his mouth with more hydrogen peroxide and be on his way. Definitely not her grossest client, but I always found this story to be interesting.